AABHE past, present, and future. So again, welcome to the AABHE fall webinar. I am joined by my friends, Dr. Dereck Rovaris, Dr. Kimberly Smith, and my name is Shewanee Howard-Baptiste. So we are excited to go ahead and get started and officially welcome you to our fall webinar. So today we'll talk about the history of the American Association of Blacks in Higher Education. We'll address lessons learned over the last decade or so. We'll talk about how we've identified key needs and gaps. We'll talk about insights learned and how we are moving forward as an organization to support all of you that are on this call today. So I'm going to turn it over to Dereck right after I present each of us to the group today. So first we have our past immediate president, Dr. Dereck Rovaris. Then we'll be followed by words and insight from Dr. Kimberly Smith, who is our current AABHE president. And then I will wrap up our session today and share a little bit of information about where we are as we move forward. After Dr. Smith's reign as president, I will follow behind her and continue on that torch and legacy. So we'll turn it over to Dereck.
Thank you so much, Dr. Howard-Baptiste. It is a pleasure to be with all of you. And I saw several of my friends and AABHE colleagues. I also see some new faces. And so welcome to the new faces and hello to those we know already. One of the things that has inspired me throughout my long journey with AABHE, and I've been with the organization since its inception as it's in its current iteration, is stepping up and people willing to take the opportunity to volunteer, because this is a predominantly volunteer organization. I'll tell you a little bit more about our professional staff in a minute, but predominantly volunteer organization. And the question for me became quite simple. As I looked at the organization from its inception, I saw a number of leaders who I was quite impressed with, people who had led the organization in its other iteration, but also people who were leading it as we were beginning this new form of Black excellence in higher education. And I was impressed by them, but I was also inspired to get involved. I looked at it and saw, what can we do to make the organization stronger? What can we do to make this organization better? And the only way to do that was to get involved. If not me, then who? If not now, then when? And so my challenge to myself was one that I often, and I think all of us do, make to our students, is to challenge them to do more and to go to higher levels. And so I had to step up. And I made the mistake of saying I would be an officer, and before I knew it, I was called president. But I am so grateful for the experience and the time and the tenure that I had as president. I will tell you, our organizational structure is pretty much as Dr. Howard-Baptiste just described. We have a past president, we have a current president, and we have a president-elect. And so your leadership is not a single-year term, it's a multi-year term. It gives the organization tremendous continuity. You'll see in the next slide. We started with the Black Caucus, which was a part of the American Association of Higher Education, the largest higher education organization in the country. And the Black Caucus was one of several caucuses, obviously designed to form an affinity group for a particular segment of higher education. There was an interesting conference held in, oh gosh, I think it was 2003, 2004, out in California, when Proposition 9 hit the books. And that proposition was a very repressive, very discriminatory proposition that many people boycotted, as did the Black Caucus and several other caucuses. Well, the conference was a huge failure. They had an opportunity to move it out of California. They chose not to. And as a result, they lost a ton of money and that organization folded. The caucus did not. And it met again in 2006 at Johnson C. Smith University to discuss what would be the next direction for the Black Caucus. And from that was born the American Association of Blacks in Higher Education. The next slide, please. And so you can see some of the earlier history of the caucus from 1980, and I give all the credit for creating this timeline to our initial president, Dr. Roland Smith. I don't know if Roland's on this call or not, but established as an affinity group, as I said, to try and pay particular attention to the critical needs of Blacks in higher education. Dr. Alvin McNeil was the founding chair. You can see if you follow the journey to the right, in 1985, we began to expand offerings. 87, we established the Doctoral Student Recognition Awards, which we still do, by the way. My good friend, Dr. Muriel Hawkins, along with Dr. Smith, were among the first 4 winners of that award. Our history is rich. If we date it back to the caucus, you can see that we established the Educational Leadership Award in 1987, held our first of 3 national summits in 2000, and Dr. Pete Silver, is Pete on the call? And if he is, happy birthday, big brother Pete. And if he's not, happy birthday, big brother Pete. The caucus then held the first Mentoring and Leadership Institute in 2003, and Dr. Silver, again, was the leader. That institute continues with us today. I know there's several of you I see on this seminar, on this webinar, who have participated in it, including our current president. Kim, you were LMI, right? Shewanee, were you LMI? So that's 2 out of 3, and I was a faculty member for LMI. One of the things that we recognize is, as I said, we're a volunteer organization, but you can only go so far as a volunteer organization. So during my tenure, we decided, how can we get some full-time or part-time staff, at least folks that we can put under contract that can receive compensation to help us do the things that we should be doing as a national organization. And so 22, so 2019, I believe I took on the presidency. And at that time, we wanted to try and do as much as we could to get at least an executive director. Well, we were able to do more than that. We were able to hire an executive director. We were able to hire an events coordinator. We were also able to hire an executive assistant. This was all due in part to successful conferences that my predecessor, Evelyn Fields, Dr. Evelyn Fields, held our first conference that was actually in the black. We'd run the conferences up to that time from 2006 for the first 10 years or so at break even, or real close to break even. But then with Evelyn, we were able to realize a profit, and that profit also made it possible for us to expand the offerings, but membership increased, and we were able to hire those 3 positions. You probably have heard from Odalette Nance, Joshua Shank. Those are just invaluable people in the work that we do. We also decided to contract to get some fundraising professional help, people that do this full time. All of us are full time, or I should know, most of us are full time employees at colleges and universities or other educational related programs. And so our full time gigs, tend to pull on us as well. I was just lamenting to Shewanee when we were in the holding room before the session. I've got AABHE, I've got my job, I've got the 100 Black men, I've got the kids, I've got the grandkids. There's a whole lot of pools in our life. Having professional help makes this work. And we have jumped in leaps and bounds since we did that starting in 2020. I should also say that 2020 was the year in which COVID affected all of us in a dramatic way. Our organization was not immune to that, and we had to pivot. One of the pivots that we did was to create what we're doing today. We created and started a number of webinars and seminars in the virtual platform that allowed us to reach to our members in another way. And so we're glad that we've been able to do that. I'm sorry, one last thing before that slide. The succession planning. One of the things we wanted to do was to make sure that organizations like this tend to reflect the leadership in front. And when that leadership changes and the organization changes, we sought not to have that. And so that's why we have this succession that I talked about, where the president comes in as a president-elect, serves his or her term, and then stays on as a past president in a consultative role to make sure the organization does not lose any of the momentum that it's gained. Next slide, thank you. So as the pandemic hit us, we had to make those changes, and some of those changes we will continue as we are experiencing the webinar today. We decided that some of our organizational structure needed to be improved. So things like the website, our marketing campaign, fundraising has been huge, and and sponsorship as well. Dr. Odalette Nance has been I don't want to say singularly responsible, but hugely responsible for so much of what we've been able to realize in terms of corporate sponsorships and other organizations stepping up to the plate, recognizing the good work that AABHE has done all these many years. And so we are a different organization than we were 5 years ago. We're a different organization than when we were the caucus. And I can assure you, as we continue to grow through Dr. Smith's, Kimberly Smith's leadership and subsequently Dr. Howard-Baptiste, it will continue to realize these pivot points, leading us toward the premier organization that we seek to become. I would offer just a couple of additional thoughts before I turn it over to Kim, and that is, if you think, and there's several people on this call, on this webinar who heeded this message, but if you think that this is a premier organization, or if you think that this can be a premier organization, and you want to see that through, I only ask one small thing, and that is to get involved. You don't have to be a board member. You don't have to be a president. All you need to do is get involved. Attend the webinars, attend the symposium, attend the conferences, participate in our leadership mentoring institute. There are all kinds of ways to get involved. And if you should choose, become a board member. Board membership is as easy as we select board members from active members of the organization. And from that, we select the executive team. And so getting involved, while like I said before, we're all very busy, I would just strongly encourage you to take that step. It's a wonderful group. It's one of my absolute favorite group of people to work with. Shewanee and I were also talking before, it's amazing how we pull things together. And I think it's because we've got a great group of people, and we generally like most of us, right? I think we like each other a bit. And it's a lot of fun seeing us realize, ultimately providing higher education access and opportunities for Blacks in higher education and leading our students to the next level. Thank you.
So Dr. Rovaris, you think we really do like each other?
I like you, Kim. I don't know about Shewanee, but I know I like you. So.
Okay, I'll remember that.
Kim, I like Shewanee too. Don't tell her. Oh, she's on here?
Yeah, if you like one Delta, you like all of us.
Oh, all right.
Oops, so there we go. I like Osceola McCarthy Adams. That's the only one.
Okay.
I like.
Anyway, thank you all for joining us today. My name is Kimberly Smith, and I serve as the current president of AABHE. And first of all, I just want to thank you all for taking your time out today to be with us. And to learn a little bit more about the American Association of Blacks in Higher Education. As the current president, I took over in March following Dr. Rovaris's exceptional leadership and guidance for a couple of years. And so, as you can see, some of the things that Dr. Rovaris talked about that we set up, including the hiring of some professional staff, those things were already in place and were in the works before I took over in leadership, but they have panned out to be some of the best decisions we've ever made for the association, even at a cost savings, actually. And so it has allowed us to really expand our repertoire of services, initiatives, programs, and that sort of thing. So today I just want to talk, you heard a little bit from Dr. Rovaris about the past and how AABHE came to be. And so sort of our evolution through the American Association of Higher Education. So right now, I'd like to just transition a little bit and talk about what I see as the major priorities for AABHE in the coming months, in the coming years, in order to make us a viable institution, a viable or association going forward. So the first goal I think that we have, and our strategic plan definitely does support our efforts in this area, would be to boost membership and engagement, right? So every association out there wants more members. And it's not because just having more members sounds great. It's because memberships are the lifeblood of any association. They represent the professionals that establish the standards and ethics in any given field. And so we want to make sure that as we boost that membership, again, we are able to represent those folks who most accurately are out there doing the important work we're doing. The second reason why we want to really be focused on this enrollment increase, membership increase, is because we want to expand the thought diversity of our association, right? So diversity can be defined in so many ways, but what we want is we want an accurate representation of the diversity of thought and opinion within African Americans and Blacks in this particular field. And so how boring would it be if we all thought alike? And so increasing our membership gives us more opportunity to have a diverse diversity of thought. And that is often the result of other types of diversity, because the way that we think and is really shaped by cultures and experiences that we live. And it also has to do with the way we do work within the association, AABHE. So think about this. We need to have conversations between big picture people and those who are more analytical in order to produce far more robust initiatives and programs for AABHE. And so diversity of thought really does focus on realizing the full potential of people and in turn the association. So again, we want to make sure that we're boosting our membership numbers, but that we're also increasing engagement within the association, because we know that engaged members are happy members and they're active members, which means we have more volunteers and more ambassadors for recruiting for the association. The second priority for AABHE is to establish some clear priorities. When our members and our committees and our board of directors are faced with several things to consider, it is crucially important that we make it clear which of these priorities are important and require attention right away. Now, I know for most of you here that seems obvious, but for many associations which have many important things to take care of, is often overlooked. And if you think about the kind of climate that we're in right now, there's so much for us to respond to, right? If it is not necessarily things related to COVID, or it's related to the political unrest that we're having and facing in the United States, as this association, we need to figure out what those priorities are and how we're going to tackle and address them. If we don't define that, then we're going to be moved by the whims of whatever is going on in the world. So the reason why we have these goals is to make sure that our membership is motivated, to make sure that our membership feels like we're all working toward a shared vision, to make sure that everyone is accountable for what we say we're going to do, which is really important. And we need to be able to quantify our success. If there are certain goals and metrics that we've established for AABHE, we want to make sure that we are able to determine through data whether or not, in fact, we are having the impact we think we are having. And then lastly, the importance of these goals is the fact that when we meet these goals, our members are going to feel much more fulfilled and much more engaged in the association. The third priority for the association is to encourage well-being of its members. And again, I say this through experience. I say this because of what the most recent experiences we all have been through because of COVID and the national unrest over racial injustices. But it is really important that our members are focused on a work-life balance that's workable, right? As a people, we tend to take on a lot and have a hard time saying no. But at this point in time, we're in a field where we to provide the best services to our students, then we need to be at our best. And someone has to step up and advocate for us that well-being is extremely important. Particularly when you look at some of the college campuses, why would we be in a position where people aren't feeling that they have a great work-life balance? Well, one of the things we know is that we look at the fact that there's an underrepresentation of of Black people in student bodies. And so different ones of us here, I'm at a PWI, Shewanee's at PWI, Dereck, you're at PWI too, right? And we have other people who are from HBCUs. We know that's a struggle for us on a daily basis, saying we want to diversify our student body. Who better than AABHE to step forward and say, we're going to serve as experts in this particular area, and this is what we can contribute to that conversation. This is what we can contribute through research in the literature. Also, I would say to you, one of the reasons that we have heard from our faculty that they are having difficulty maintaining an appropriate work-life balance is because of the intense demand on Black professors to mentor the younger colleagues and graduate students and undergraduate, if you want to be truthful, and the heavy load that they carry doing diversity work, all while trying to pursue tenure and promotion. And so what are the ways that we as the American Association of Blacks in Higher Education can provide guidance, can provide benchmarks to helping these folks, our members, have better work-life balance? And then the last goal for the association, not last goal, the last one that I will mention to you today is about addressing the pipeline and ultimate success of Black students, Black faculty, and Black staff in higher education. Particularly when it comes to the students, we know that there are disparities in the rate of completion, particularly with the undergraduate education. Sorry, Shewanee, thank you for catching me back up, but if you could, yeah, one more. All right. And so as we address the gaps in pipeline and success of Blacks, again, I mentioned that we know that there are disparities in the rate of completion of degrees, particularly for the bachelor's degree among undergraduate students. And so even when you look at our students of color, our Black African-American students are disproportionately represented in that particular piece. There are also gaps in graduation rates. I know I'm at an institution that loves to boast about our retention rate, but when you disaggregate the data and look at how those differences are by population, you will start to see that for our Black students, we did not have the same graduation and retention rates. So again, AABHE has the opportunity to provide leadership and guidance in those particular areas. Next, you go to the next slide, sorry. So how do we offer, how we're going to meet these goals? What are some of our signature programming and events? If you're not familiar, please become familiar with what we have here at AABHE. We do have an annual conference, which is dynamic, amazing, and wonderful. I don't know if we can ever top New Orleans, Dereck, when we had the band to march through the hotel, but that was a good thing. That was a great experience. We have lots of career opportunities to share. We have actually created our own career center here at AABHE that allows you as a member to review different open positions across the country, but also allows you to post any positions that you might have that you would like to, recruit for diverse representation for. We do have quite a bit of leadership development built into the association. We have two different levels. We have the Rising Leaders Institute and the Leadership Mentoring Institute. The difference between the two is basically the years of experience that you have. If you were relatively newer to the field, the Rising Leaders Institute would be a great option to participate in. And for those who are looking to go into higher levels of administration and those sorts of things, and actually faculty, then they may want to participate in the Leadership Mentoring Institute. Again, that has both an administrative track as well as a faculty track. So these next couple of slides show you some of the save the dates and the announcements that have gone out for our 2021 conference. Again, March 14th to 16th. I'm sorry, that's last year's annual conference. But we do have our conference coming up this year in San Diego. And we're looking forward to having a number of you come and participate with us. We do have a number of town hall meetings as well to try to keep you informed about what's going on. These two slides here represent the Rising Leaders Institute as well as the International Study Tour. As an association, every 2 years, we do take an international study tour to study more about the Black diaspora and learn more about higher education across the world. This past summer, we did complete our trip to Ethiopia and Dubai. It was life-changing, amazing. So I hope that in the future, you all are able to join us for one of those particular events. Next. The Rising Leaders Institute, again, I mentioned that for some of our newer professionals in the field. Next. And I will turn it over to Shewanee.
Thank you, Kim. I appreciate that. One of the things that I think about in the next couple of years as I continue the work of Dereck and Kim and those that have come before us is really supporting the work that Dereck has done in the past, particularly on building on the legacy of the organization, making sure that we're reminding current and new members what that legacy has been and what people have gone before us done to pave the way for us to have this organization, being mindful of strategic planning, continuing coordinated partnerships. The trajectory of Dr. Smith is really thinking about how do we engage our members. Many of the states here have statewide membership, but we also want to think about how do we engage the state level membership with national connections and support, focusing on establishing our priorities and really focusing on well-being and self-care, as Kim had alluded to earlier, and thinking about what gaps the organization can provide to support the organization moving forward. Things that I think I'll be thinking about in the next couple of years, one being self-care, particularly around physical and mental health. I will say this organization continues to be an area of support where you could text friends and colleagues and other board members who will lift you up, who will keep you in their thoughts and prayers, who will check in and on you on a consistent basis. And so that's, not something that you typically get in a professional organization, but I think that's what makes this organization so special is that they willingly do those things. Another area is thinking about our alignment with the strategic plan and being intentional about programming. So we're already having conversations now about what the international study tour would look like in 2024. I know Dr. Smith has gone before. Dereck, I'm not sure if you've gone on the study tour. 2024, Dereck and I are going to go on this study tour. But that's another great opportunity to connect personal and professional development and then be able to bring that skill and expertise that you learn on those tours back to our respective campuses.
I would like to say in reference to the study tours, and Kim could speak more on it, it is one of the signature programs that we do, and it has taken members as well as non-members to all but one continent. I think we've been to 6 of the 7 continents, and Pete's working on Antarctica. But we have traveled far and wide, and they are study tours. It's a chance for you to spend a couple of weeks in another set of countries, usually 2 countries, at a reasonable cost, with education as the centerpiece, as well as a whole lot of sightseeing and some real fun times. So that's just one of so many things that Kim just shared with you that we do, and we do it well.
Yeah, those are very popular. And I know, Kim, you want to share something about the study tour? Because I know you went this summer as well.
Yeah, I just want to emphasize that it truly is a study tour and not a vacation. A few of our participants in the past have not quite realized that we're spending time visiting other higher education institutions in those respective countries. We also have a few participants who happen to be faculty in nursing programs in higher ed. And so we typically visit some of the hospitals in those countries as well. But the intent is, as we are gathering all this information about the Black diaspora, about higher education, about the health system, education system, we're comparing and contrasting to the United States to see how that can help us to learn more, do better at the things that we're responsible for. So, but I have to say to you, every trip I've been on for the study tour has been life-changing.
Awesome. What's your favorite country, Kim? If you had to pick one.
I would have to say still, it's South Africa.
South Africa, yeah. So one of the opportunities that I get to share with you all this afternoon is the IABHE, the Indiana Association of Blacks in Higher Education. And again, they have a national symposium this November 13th and 14th. So the QR code is there. I think you're able to still register for that conference and attend. So you don't have to be part of or live in the state of Indiana. All are welcome to attend that symposium in Indianapolis, November 13th and 14th. They'll talk about the lives and experiences of Blacks in particularly in Indiana, in that region and across the nation. You'll have access to Black professionals. Some of the folks who are on this call right now are going to be in Indianapolis in the next few weeks to talk about how the field is changing, different disciplines, higher education, and how that's impacting everything from curriculum to how we recruit diverse faculty and staff. So if you haven't thought about, thinking about, or an opportunity for the fall, this is certainly a great way to get connected to other Blacks in higher education. For 2023's national conference, I have the pleasure of serving as the program chair for that conference. So there probably isn't a day that goes by that there isn't an email or a correspondence that says, Shewanee, can you? Shewanee, are you? I'd be happy to write something that I've never written before. But I have great colleagues that I reach in and lean on often to say, hey, Dereck, do you have an example of this? Or Kim, what am I on the right track when I'm thinking about this opportunity? And so as Dereck mentioned earlier, and I know Kim agrees as well, we really do enjoy working alongside one another and creating opportunities to support everyone on this call and those like us. The theme for 2023 is redefining diversity, equity, and inclusion, affirming Blacks in higher education. So we are so excited to share this opportunity. So March 26th through the 28th, that's a Sunday through Tuesday, we will be in San Diego. And I know Josh is going to, he's one of our team members. He's going to drop the link in the chat for you to register for the conference. The registration, the early bird price is available. So you definitely want to take advantage of those discounts. So we'll be in San Diego, March 26th through the 28th next year. We have a number of pre-conference sessions. So Dereck is leading a session on diversity, equity, and inclusion assessment tools, and really how do you navigate the DEI world. So for those of you who are new to the DEI space, whether as a faculty member or an administrator, there's information and content for you, or you're someone who's been in the field, I know like Dereck, for a long time, and you're thinking about what's the longevity of this field and what it looks like in higher education. So I know Dereck is going to have a lot of insight to provide there. We'll also have some pre-conference sessions in terms of a research boot camp. We talked about the DEI tools. We'll talk about Africana studies and how that's impacting specifically California and then throughout the United States. There's a number of concurrent sessions. So if you are, where my doc student, my graduate students, those who are newly minted PhDs, EDDs, and others who finished their terminal degree, if you're looking for a professional space to share your peer-reviewed research, this conference is for you. It is certainly a homecoming for all of us to connect with one another as family, as friends, but also as scholars and researchers. So again, the call for proposals is open. It is the deadline has been extended until Monday, October 31st. We've gotten so much positive feedback that says, hey, Shewanee, I know the deadline was this past week. Is there any way that you could extend it? We have more people who want to submit their research for consideration for the conference. So Josh, I think, is going to drop that link if he hasn't already done so for the call for proposals. It's a very simple form that you can fill out, and then the review committee will be underway in the next couple of weeks. So you'll know before the December holiday Christmas break the status of your proposal. So we're really excited to share this opportunity, and we look forward to seeing you all in San Diego. So I'm going to turn it over to my predecessors to add any final thoughts, and then we'll entertain any questions and tell you how you can become a member. So Dereck, I'll turn it over to you first.
Yeah, I was reflecting on, when you take a look back at the journey of the organization, and we don't do this every day, but as I was reflecting, reviewing for this presentation today, it's really a remarkable journey. And it really speaks to the persistence of a people. It speaks to, as one organization folded around us, we came out from underneath that collapsed building and made this phenomenal organization. It's a pretty remarkable story, and I'm quite impressed with it. The other thought that I had was, I remember that caucus, that summit that brought us together to plan for what would become AABHE out of the caucus. And the conversation, while Shewanee introduced all three of us as working at PWIs, the conversation was rich. We were at an HBCU. The experiences for Blacks in higher education at HBCUs can be very similar to the PWIs. When you think about rank and tenure, you think about promotion, you think about limited opportunities, and then you couple that with, I'm at a college for our people, and I'm still getting this crap thrown at me. And so I'll never forget, I was at that conference when I got this strange call from my then institution, Xavier University, which is a historically Black college, about a real big mess up on our campus that I was going to have to go back and deal with. And I could never get that image out of my mind of, here I am trying to plan an organization that will support Blacks in higher education. Now I've got to go back to Xavier and clean up a mess that really is just the opposite. So again, great organization. I can't say enough about how fond I am of it and the work that we do.
Awesome. Thank you, Dereck. And I, again, just want to say in closing that we would love to have you all become more engaged and more active with the association. I myself am very committed to American Association of Blacks in Higher Education. I feel like the association has done so much for me. That I want to see it thrive. I want to see it succeed. One of the more practical examples of how AABHE has helped me is in terms of finishing that dissertation. You know, I was ABD for a number of years, but back in 2009, I had the opportunity to attend the LMI Leadership Mentoring Institute and became so motivated, so inspired by that experience that I tell people it was 6 months to the day after participating in LMI that I was Dr. Kimberly Smith, because I knew that it was essential in order to advance some of the things I wanted to see happen in higher ed. So please, you as well, join, share your expertise with us. We need you. We need your help to thrive and survive. So please join us.
And thank you, President Smith, for that call to action. We certainly need you all's skill and expertise moving forward. So at this time, we will entertain any questions. So we did have one question that was shared prior, and we want to make sure we address that. So Kim, I'll turn this to you first, and then others feel free to jump in. How do you deal with heavy demands of your work and balancing your life? Some people can work from home, others may not have that space to do so. So how do we help administrative staff move up the career ladder? What are the best ways to kind of think about whether or not it's time to pivot for a new career?
Well, that's the whole association, that question. It is. There's a lot packed into that question. But I would say, as you heard in some regard from all three of us, well-being is very important. And we know that as an association, again, we can't provide the best to our students if we're not the best ourselves. And so well-being is extremely important. And I will say to you all, I learned a lot about myself through this pandemic and what my limits are. I would have at one point in time told you all that I was Wonder Woman. I can do it all, right? But I learned some things about saying no, about prioritizing what needs to be established and those sorts of things. And so I really encourage you to become an active member of AABHE, because we do have programs and services in place that are going to help you figure that out, whether it be through the programs and services or whether it be through a mentoring relationship with one of the leaders of the association. We definitely do try to help folks figure out how to do that. Well-being. Can you repeat
Sure.
the next question?
The other part was, so you talked about balancing the demands of work and life, and it sounds like you just have to figure out what's most important. Sometimes it becomes important to us and it's forced upon us to make those decisions. But if we can think early on about where are some spaces that we can say no, and saying no to one thing means that you get to say yes to another opportunity, and sometimes saying yes and saying yes to yourself. Maybe if I could pivot to Dereck real quick. Dereck, how do you measure career ladder? What do you tell your staff who are thinking about what's next? How do you determine what the next opportunity might be?
Yeah, I was smiling all the while when Kim was talking about finishing up the doctors. I remember having gotten behind her several times and pushing and kicking and saying, "Come on, girl, you got to get this done." I'm a huge proponent of getting all of the credentials that you can to get the positions that you seek ultimately. And so advanced degrees, professional development, all of those go a long, long way to getting you where you want to go. There's so many positions that people want and should have, but they don't have the credential. And so getting yourself prepared for that. The other is, and I'm at the end of my game. This is my last job. I just moved up to Southern Maryland. This is the last job after a nearly 40-year career in higher education. And I still have mentors. And several of them are in this organization. Some of my mentors are older and some are younger. I learn from as many people as I can. And so my best advice is something that was given to me many years ago: is surround yourself with a good team of people who can help you navigate the process. Don't try to do it alone. And to paraphrase Kim, AABHE is full of mentors.
Awesome. I want to give a special shout out to Dr. Rucker. She is the president of the Indiana Association of Blacks in Higher Education. So Dr. Rucker, if you're available, feel free to take yourself off mute about the opportunities that are coming in November in your state.
Let's see. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to encourage you to register to attend the National Symposium. It is a joint venture between the Indiana Association of Blacks in Higher Education, which is a regional affiliate of AABHE. The leadership of AABHE is pulling out all the stops. We're going to start on Friday with a series of meet and greets throughout the state, where officers from AABHE will be there to speak. And then in Indianapolis on Saturday and Sunday, there's a pre-conference workshop that I encourage you to sign up for, because it's going to deal with all the things that they've been talking about in terms of the goals of the organization: self-care, professional development, and how to come up with a strategy for your career, not just sort of haphazardly, accepting what people give you, but actually coming up with a plan. And then we go on Sunday evening and on Monday to the actual symposium itself, which includes all of the Black presidents of colleges in Indiana. So please register to attend. Either go to the AABHE site, higher ed, blacksinhighered.org, or IABHE.org, and you can sign up. We're looking forward to seeing you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rucker. We appreciate the opportunity, for you joining us and sharing this opportunity about this joint venture. So again, Josh has shared the information in the chat for Indianapolis. If you're looking for ways to get connected, if you've been a member in the past and looking for ways to get connected again, we welcome you. As Dr. Smith said, this is an organization for you, and we continue to strive to be the premier organization for Blacks in higher education. So feel free to utilize the chat or take yourself off mute if you have a question, and we'd be happy to respond.
Hey, Shewanee, I was going to do a couple of shout outs too, because I didn't see her earlier, but Teresa Chapman is on the call. She's one of those professional staff people that I mentioned earlier. She's been with us for a long time, and glad to see her. Josh, I don't know if you can see him, but he's on the call too. He sent us a note yesterday saying that we had folks registered from as far away as Alaska, Utah, New Mexico, California, Florida. It's a pretty impressive group you guys are. We also have some of our board members on here. I saw Vicki Bonds, Crystal Coyle, Petra Robinson, Kayla Burrell Craft. I don't know if I'm missing anybody. Our good friend Carla Major, who has led several of these webinars.
Jody Marshall.
It's just, say it again, I stepped over.
Jody Marshall.
Where's Jody? Jody, yes. So this organization is member driven. It's full of folks like yourselves. I saw that Latanya, I think it was Latanya and LaShawn in the chat indicated that this was their first time being with us. Both of you guys, this is how it starts. Ask Lamar. I see Lamar on here. Lamar's been with us almost since the beginning, especially through LMI and other programming. Lots of friends in this room. Lots of friends.
Well, again, there are a number of ways to connect with AABHE. So the information is there in the chat. I'll also drop my email address in the chat as well. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. If you're just thinking, hey, how do I become involved? I missed the link to get connected. We are more than happy to share that information with you to ensure that you stay connected with the American Association for Blacks in Higher Education. So hopefully we will see you in November, if not November and March. We'll see you in warm San Diego, March 26th through the 28th. So we hope everyone has a phenomenal day. You've gotten some new insight and information from our webinar today, and we look forward to supporting your professional development needs in the very near future. So thanks everyone for attending, and we'll see you next time.
Kim, I just saw your post.
Canned eating